You've prayed for the storm to end, begged even, whispered to the sky like a child left out in the rain. God, please, just make it stop. But it didn't. The wind kept rising. The chaos kept circling. The silence on the other end of your prayer line got heavier. And maybe, if you're honest, part of you began to wonder, what's wrong with me? Why isn't this changing? You've tried affirmations, you've tried discipline, you've read the books, made the plans, listened to the podcasts, you've rewritten the vision board until your fingers bled purpose. And still, the storm remained. And that's where the real exhaustion set in. Not just from life being hard, but from it staying the same no matter how hard you tried. But you're here now. And here you'll hear something most voices never say. The storm didn't stay because you're failing. The storm stayed because God is still forming you. Because the truth is, God is not in the business of adjusting your weather. He's in the business of anchoring your identity so you can withstand it. Think of a ship moored in a harbor. Waves pounding, wind howling, clouds ripping open above. From the outside it looks vulnerable, exposed, at the mercy of it all. But what you don't see is the anchor buried deep beneath the surface. You don't hear the tension in the chain, or the way the captain learned through storm after storm how not to panic. That's who you are. That's what God is training in you. Not surface calm, but subsurface command. You've asked for peace. But God gave you something better. The chance to become the kind of person who can carry peace into chaos. You wanted the pressure to stop. But what if the pressure isn't punishment? What if it's precision? Because pressure reveals what's weak. It squeezes the gaps in your character, your patience, your faith. It exposes where your belief is still tied to outcome, and where your trust is still a transaction. I'll believe God if you move this storm, but that's not faith, that's emotional bargaining. And God doesn't deal in fear-based contracts. He deals in transformation, not through escape, but through endurance. Napoleon Hill understood this, even if the world missed it. Think and Grow Rich was never just about mindset. It was about identity. It was about becoming the kind of person who can carry the wealth of vision without crumbling under the weight of circumstance. But you can't become that person by begging the storm to leave. You become that person by becoming still inside it. So if you've been praying for the chaos to end, hear this. God changes you first, not the storm. Because if He changed the storm before you were ready, you'd just recreate it. You'd find new chaos, new fear, new ways to self-sabotage the peace you begged for. Not because you're broken, but because you hadn't been retrained yet. Storms don't shape your identity. They expose it. And what they expose is what you're called to rebuild with divine precision. So breathe. Right now, the clouds may still hang heavy, the winds may still scream your name, but something inside you, old as Eden, deep as oceans, knows, I don't need the storm to stop to become still. That stillness is the real wealth. That identity is the real miracle. That alignment is the real prayer answered. And from that space, the world begins to bend around your becoming. You are not lost, you are not weak, you are not being punished. You are being changed. And once that change takes root, the storm won't matter, because you'll carry a presence it cannot move. You've tried almost everything. You've set goals with trembling hope, written out affirmations in journals stained with doubt, woken up at 5 a.m. with a fire in your chest, only to crash by 2 p.m. under the weight of it all. You've cried in parking lots, smiled through breakdowns, held yourself together with vision, boards and caffeine just long enough to convince the world you were on the path. And through it all, the results didn't come. The breakthrough didn't break through. The shift felt like it belonged to other people. And you wondered, am I not trying hard enough? Or am I just not meant for this? But what if neither is true? What if you've been planting seeds in soil your identity was never prepared to sustain? What if all the effort has been coming from a place God never called you to move from? Let's tell the truth. Most people don't pursue change. They pursue relief. They don't seek alignment. They seek escape. They want the storm to stop, not because they're ready to lead, but because they're tired of feeling powerless. So they try to force a breakthrough. They chase miracles like a lottery ticket. They read Think and Grow Rich and try to visualize their way out of the chaos. But their soul is not anchored. Their identity is not aligned. Their faith is not embodied. It's transactional. If I think the right thoughts, I'll get the thing. If I speak the right words, God will bless me. If I grind hard enough, something has to give. But that's not alignment. That's misaligned desperation dressed up as discipline, and it never works. Not long-term, not sustainably, not with peace. Napoleon Hill said, "There is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it, but no one tells you what that readiness really means. It's not about having a perfect routine. It's not about being fearless or positive all the time. It's not even about hard work. It's about identity, about becoming the kind of person who can carry the vision with integrity and spiritual gravity. And you can't do that if your internal operating system is built on panic, performance, and fear. You've probably felt this. You declare a new vision and your body tenses. You set a big goal and secretly brace for disappointment. You commit to change and sabotage it by week 2. It's not that you're flaky. It's that part of you doesn't believe you're safe to succeed. And where there is fear, there will always be fragmentation. Because you cannot build from a divided self. And yet that's exactly how most people live. Trying to manifest abundance from a place of unworthiness. Trying to command their future from an identity that still sees themselves as broken. Trying to grow rich from a belief system wired for survival, not creation. So what happens? They try everything, and nothing sticks. Because it's not about the method, it's about the misalignment. They are like someone digging a well in sand. The more they dig, the faster it collapses. The more energy they expend, the more discouraged they become. Not because water isn't possible, but because the foundation was never stable enough to hold it. That's not failure. That's architecture. So let's break the cycle. Let's name the pattern you've likely lived in for years. The misalignment loop: pressure hits, storm rises, crisis emerges, or the silence becomes unbearable. You chase change, books, courses, plans, declarations, a new identity scramble. You act from fear. The engine running everything is anxiety, lack, or self-doubt. You burn out or self-sabotage because the identity can't hold the behavior. It doesn't match. Shame creeps in. You blame yourself. You retreat. You restart again later, a little more bruised. You've called this loop trying. But it's not trying, it's grasping. And grasping never leads to growth. It leads to spiritual exhaustion. Because deep down, part of you knows, I'm not walking in alignment. I'm just fighting to feel okay, but here's the grace. You're not lazy, you're not a failure. You're not missing the spark. You were just moving before you were anchored, chasing before you were chosen, declaring before you were deeply aligned. And God, in His mercy, didn't give you the storm-ending miracle. He gave you something better, a mirror, to show you the fracture, to show you the grasping, to show you the place where you stopped building from truth and started building from trauma, because God does not build on broken foundations. He rebuilds the builder first. So if everything you've tried feels like it's failed, it's not because the tools were wrong. It's because the tools were in the hands of someone who had not yet remembered their divine identity. And now you're ready to remember, to stop digging in sand, to stop shouting into wind, to stop moving out of fear, to become the one who no longer needs the storm to break because they've been broken open in the right way. You've heard the phrase, think and grow rich. You've seen it quoted on timelines, turned into slogans, squeezed into morning mantras and vision board captions. It's become a kind of shorthand for manifestation, as if all it takes is desire plus action, destiny. But that was never what Napoleon Hill actually taught, not truly, not in the sacred weight of his real message. The true core of Think and Grow Rich isn't about hustle. It's not about wishful thinking or forcing results through obsession. The true core is this: you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And until your identity matches the reality you're reaching for, you will repel the very thing you're trying to manifest. Read that again. You attract what you are. This is not law of attraction fluff. This is alignment. Law. This is spiritual architecture. This is the principle behind every lasting transformation. Identity before result. Alignment before manifestation. Hill wrote something few people quote. Before success comes in any man's life, he is sure to meet with much temporary defeat and perhaps some failure. When defeat overtakes a man, the easiest and most logical thing to do is to quit. That is exactly what the majority of men do. But he doesn't stop there. He says, more than 500 of the most successful men this country has ever known told the author their greatest success came just one step beyond the point at which defeat had overtaken them. Why? Because defeat reveals the identity. It reveals what version of you is leading. And only through identity realignment can you reach the one step beyond. Let's say it clearly. Most people use Hill's work as a strategy when it was meant to be a mirror. They see definiteness of purpose as a to-do list. They treat desire as a hype ritual. They use faith like a sales trick. Convince yourself enough, and the universe will respond. But what Hill was pointing to was not a performance technique. It was a transformation principle. You must become the person who is able to hold the result. If you desire wealth, but still carry the identity of lack, you will sabotage every opportunity. If you visualize peace, but still respond to life from fear, you will create chaos even in calm circumstances. If you set goals, but the version of you pursuing them is ashamed, fragile, or misaligned, those goals will break you before they ever bless you. This is why Hill begins with desire, but builds through faith, autosuggestion, specialized knowledge, and eventually decision, persistence, power of the mastermind, and transmutation. Each of these steps is not just a strategy. Each is a reconstruction of identity, because to think differently is not enough. You must become someone new, not in performance, but in essence. And who leads that transformation? You do, but not alone. God is in the blueprint. Hill never denied the spiritual. In fact, his final chapters speak of the subconscious mind, the sixth sense, and the infinite intelligence. He knew. Without spiritual alignment, effort is just noise. Without identity elevation, no success will ever feel safe. Without divine integration, wealth will be temporary or self-destructive. That's the truth the world skipped over. The truth many success teachers stripped from the message to sell shortcuts. But you're not here for shortcuts. You're here for the real thing. So what does that look like? It looks like building your life from the inside out, not the outside in. It means asking, what does the version of me who has already received this and think like and speak like and walk like and decide like, not pretending, not performing, but rehearsing the identity you were always meant to inhabit, because that identity isn't fake. It's just forgotten. It's buried beneath fear, failure, drift, old stories, and emotional reactions. And every time you return to it, through thought, through word, through action, you bring it back to life, you resurrect it. And when that identity leads, the results follow. Let's root this in metaphor. The blueprint in the firelight. Imagine sitting alone at night, fire burning beside you. In your lap, a blueprint, one God gave you long ago. Not of a house, not of a business, of you. The real you, the one he whispered into being before the world taught you to perform. Every time you speak with faith, every time you move in alignment, every time you choose integrity over urgency, you follow that blueprint, and slowly, your outer world begins to echo it, not by force, by fidelity. So ask now, am I chasing results, or am I building identity? Am I performing success, or becoming someone who naturally lives in it? If the answer reveals misalignment, don't collapse, just recalibrate, because the blueprint is still here. And God hasn't changed the storm, because he's still finishing the builder. But the more you live from that divine identity, the less power the storm will have. Not because it vanished, but because it no longer holds the authority to name you. You don't become through force, you become through repetition. Not repetition of effort, repetition of alignment. That's what the world forgets. They chase goals and chase more and chase outcomes, but never stop long enough to ask, Am I even becoming the kind of person who can hold what I'm asking for? You've tried to think and grow rich, but the thinking wasn't rooted in identity. It was rooted in reaction, and that's why it didn't hold, because without identity, strategy is hollow. Without spiritual embodiment, action becomes drift. Without anchoring, you'll keep building on sand. So now you train, not to become something new, but to return to the self God already named. You are not becoming worthy. You are remembering how to walk in the truth of your original design. That remembering requires ritual, not for religion, not for rules, for repetition, because repetition is what reclaims identity, and this ritual begins each day before the world touches you, before the texts, before the emails, before the noise, because if you don't name yourself first, the storm will. Let me show you how. This isn't theory. This is a sacred routine, a daily act of spiritual command, the crown ritual, walking in who you already are. Step 1, return to silence before anything external. Sit, no phone, no music, no stimulation, just you, your breath, your God. Sit with the intention of receiving your name again. You are not here to plan. You are here to remember. Step 2, read the scroll aloud. You will speak identity before you speak to the world. Write out and declare a short identity code. Not a wish, a recognition. Here's one you may begin with. I am the one God, called before the storm. I walk in clarity, not confusion. I move from purpose, not panic. I carry the wealth of presence, not the weight of performance. I was chosen for alignment, not just achievement. I wear peace like a robe, and I speak only what is true. Feel it, not as hype, but as inheritance. This is your scroll. You are not reading it to become it. You are reading it because it's already true. Step 3, place the crown, yes, literally. Whether physically or symbolically, you place your authority on your head. Touch your forehead. Take a breath. Visualize placing something there. A crown, a seal, a signet that reminds you. This is who leads today. This is not about ego. It's about ownership. You are not drifting into the day. You are being sent. Step 4. Walk with weighted. Steps from this moment on, you walk like someone chosen. You don't scroll mindlessly. You don't rush to react. You don't apologize for existing. You move as one who has been anointed in silence. Let every step echo this knowing. I am rehearsing a reality that already belongs to me. Even when doubt creeps in, you return. Even when nothing's working yet, you return. Even when the storm gets louder, you return. This is why it's a ritual, because becoming is not about one breakthrough. It's about daily remembering who you are under pressure, and nothing makes you more dangerous to drift than that. Now let me show you why this works. Ritual rewires. Identity. Every identity is shaped by 3 things. What you consistently see, what you consistently say, what you consistently survive. When you rehearse truth daily, you change all 3. You see yourself differently. You speak from a new root, and you survive each day with a steady flame instead of chaos. That creates evidence, and evidence builds belief, and belief becomes embodiment. This is no longer motivation. This is architecture. Let me give you a metaphor to seal it. The robe and the scroll. Every morning you enter your day spiritually naked, and if you do not clothe yourself in truth, the world will dress you in lies. So before you do anything else, you read the scroll. Identity written by divine authorship. Wear the robe. Stillness, weight, presence. Place the crown. Command. Sovereignty. Spiritual alignment. Not to impress, not to pretend, but to walk as someone who is no longer begging for clarity because they carry it. Let this be your new rhythm. Wake, return, declare, walk. Not because the world changed, but because you did. First. That's the order. That's the law of alignment. That's the principle Hill hinted at. But only the faithful understand. The world does not. Respond to your effort. It responds to your identity, and now yours is clear. You've been asking the wrong question. Not because your heart was wrong, but because your wiring was desperate. You've asked, when will the storm end? But here's the deeper question. Who am I inside the storm? And how does that change what it means to me? Because here's the truth, the storm doesn't have to move. You do. And once you do, once your posture shifts, your identity locks in, your mind settles, the storm can roar all it wants. It no longer has the authority to name you. Most people live storm to storm, mood to mood, crisis to crisis, chasing. Calm like it's some finish line they'll reach once life finally cooperates. But calm isn't a finish line. It's a faculty, a skill, a spiritual muscle built in the tension, not the silence. This is where many lose their way. They think, peace is the absence of pressure. But the storm has always been the teacher, not the punishment, because pressure doesn't just test your foundation, it reveals it. Let's speak plainly. You're not in pain because the world is hard. You're in pain because you've been believing you shouldn't feel pain here. You've been measuring your peace by the weather outside your spirit instead of the posture within it. And so when things don't change, you think you're failing, when really, you just haven't accepted the sacred law. Peace isn't given, it's claimed inside the storm as the storm. With the storm still screaming your name, you've begged God to change your circumstances. But what if the storm was sent, not to punish, but to initiate? What if the chaos was the classroom? Because storms do something nothing else can. They force you to either fracture or forge. They break false identities. They humble arrogance. They collapse performative strength. And what remains? The real you, the anchored you, the trained one. Here's what happens when you stop waiting for calm. You become a lighthouse, not a wall. Not a warrior trying to fight the sea, just light, stillness, rooted signal. And the storm, it still rages, it still wails, but now it rages around you, not within you. Let's give this shape. The eye of the storm. There is always a center. Even in the worst storms, there is always a core, a space where the wind still, the noise fades. That is the eye. In your spiritual life, that eye is not external. It is you. The version of you trained through fire to remain centered when everything else spins. You don't reach the eye by begging the storm to calm. You reach it by walking through the winds until your identity holds steady, even as the chaos circles. That's not survival. That's spiritual authority, and it's what you've been called into all along. But let's tell the truth. You were never taught how to do this. You were taught to pray the storm away, to ask for deliverance before discipline, to run from tension and call it faith. But real faith isn't proven by what you say in calm moments. It's revealed by how you walk when nothing around you supports the promise. It's revealed when you hold still, not because the storm is small, but because your spirit has become larger. Let me show you what this means in practice. Storm training. 3 questions to reclaim command. Whenever life spirals, don't react. Ask, what does this storm want me to become? Every pressure has a formation embedded in it. Is it calling you to stillness, to boundaries, to trust, without proof, to release a version of yourself that cannot walk into the next chapter? Storms don't speak in logic, they speak in pressure. Listen not with panic, but with posture. Where have I given my peace away? Was it the opinion of someone else? A fear that crept back in? An outcome you're gripping instead of surrendering? Peace is not something you find, it's something you steward. Trace where it leaked and seal it in silence. What would the trained version of me do right now? Not the reactive self, not the one waiting for permission, the anchored one, the one who wears the crown, the one who has rehearsed peace daily, even in the dark. Ask, then do that. Not perfectly, just faithfully. This is not about denying emotion. This is about no longer worshipping it. You're allowed to feel the chaos. You're just not obligated to follow it. You can witness the wind and stay rooted. You can hear the old story and not re-enter it. You can face the same pressure and move like someone trained. That's what the storm was sent to show you, that you've already been changed, not because the storm passed, but because it no longer defines who walks through it. Let me offer you a symbol. The fixed flame picture, a torch set on the edge of a cliff, wind thrashing, waves crashing. but the torch is protected by stone, not from the storm itself, but from the belief that the storm can reach it. That's you now. You are the fixed flame. Not immune, but rooted, not untouched, but unmoved, because you've stopped measuring your progress by whether life gets easier. You measure it by whether you stay aligned, no matter how loud the storm gets. That's what it means to move, even when the storm doesn't. So here is your command now. I no longer beg the storm to stop. I become the presence that ends its power. And the moment you decide that, you are no longer the victim, you are no longer the drifter, you are no longer waiting, you are walking, and the storm will have to reorganize itself around who you've become. There comes a moment in every spiritual life when the waiting must end. Not because the answer has come, but because you've decided to walk like it already has. This is the moment where faith becomes flesh, not a feeling, not a phrase, a posture, a pattern, a practiced presence. This is where you stop praying for permission and start embodying the prophecy. Because you were never meant to just hope. You were meant to walk as if it's done. There's a line in Think and Grow Rich that most overlook. Faith is the eternal elixir, which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. Life, power, action. Hill understood. Faith that stays in the mind is not faith, it's fantasy. Faith becomes real when it walks, when it moves before the clouds part. When it steps into fire and still declares, this is holy ground, you've declared, you've believed, you've trained. Now, you embody. Let's get honest. Most people try to think their way into a new life, but thought alone cannot create change. Why? Because the body still remembers what the soul is trying to forget. The nervous system still rehearses the old identity. And unless your walk changes, your world won't either. This is why everything felt stuck before you were declaring breakthrough, but walking like someone still waiting for it. You were saying, I believe, but shrinking every time pressure. Rose, you were calling yourself chosen, but showing up to your day like someone still trying to earn it. That ends now. You no longer walk as someone hoping. You walk as someone remembering, and when you remember, you move differently. You speak with fewer words but more weight. You take up space, not in arrogance, but in alignment. You make decisions from your future, not your fear. You respond like the result has already occurred, because in your spirit it has. This is not delusion. This is what faith was always meant to be. Evidence before experience, movement before manifestation, embodiment before external confirmation. Let me show you how this looks. The walk, the 4 pillars of embodied faith. 1, you speak from the result, no more disclaimers, no more we'll see energy, no more dragging your vision down to match your doubt. You speak with finality, not force. It's done. This is who I am. This is the path, and I will not depart from it. God has already authored this. I'm just walking it out. And when doubt whispers, you don't argue, you answer with alignment. 2, you dress the role. This isn't vanity, it's spiritual physics. You don't wait to feel worthy of the identity. You wear it, in how you move, in what you allow, in how you handle delay, disagreement, or difficulty. You dress not for where you've been, but for where you're becoming from. Because embodiment begins with how you carry the weight of your calling, not the wounds of your past. 3, you decide from the higher timeline. When decisions arise, ask, what would the version of me who's already walking in the result choose here? Not the stressed version, not the tired version, not the reactive or begging version, the trained one, the crowned one, the one who has sat in silence, declared the scroll, and stepped forward without needing proof. And you choose that, even when it costs, even when no one understands yet, even when your body shakes, but your spirit stays steady. 4, you do not rush to prove. Embodiment doesn't panic. You no longer explain yourself to those who doubt. You no longer grasp at attention or reassurance. You no longer bend to be understood. Because when you walk like it's done, you don't need applause. You're not looking for confirmation. You are becoming the confirmation. Your stillness is now your loudest message. Your consistency is now your witness. Your decisions are now your legacy. whether anyone sees them yet or not. This is what it means to walk in divine maturity. Not perfection, presence, not control, command, not performance, posture. You don't chase results anymore. You align with reality, and that reality starts from the inside out. Let me give you a symbol. Sandals in the fire. Imagine walking through fire, not running, not flinching, but walking. Sandals steady, eyes clear, robe of peace unmoved. That's what embodiment feels like. It doesn't mean the fire vanishes. It means the fire no longer controls your movement. And just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you walk not alone. Because when you walk as if it's done, God joins you in the fire, not to pull you out, but to reveal that your spirit was never at risk. So speak this now. I walk like it's already done, because in He, the storm didn't change, but you did. And now you see what it was always for. It was never about the chaos outside. It was never about the delay, the difficulty, the resistance. It was never about how hard it got. It was always about who you were becoming in the middle of it. The storm wasn't sent to stop you. It was sent to strip everything from you that wasn't truly you. The fear, the false identity, the fragile faith, the desperation that wore the mask of devotion. And now, you walk lighter, not because the world has gotten easier, but because you're no longer carrying what never belonged to you. Look at yourself now. You no longer beg for clarity. You bring it. You no longer wait for peace. You wear it. You no longer collapse. In the storm, you conduct your spirit inside it. You speak slower because you trust your voice. You respond with stillness because urgency no longer owns you. You move with vision because your faith is no longer fantasy. It's form. This is what the storm revealed, that you never needed to escape. You needed to remember. The world may look the same, but you don't walk it the same way anymore. You rise differently now. You enter rooms differently. You make decisions from identity, not emotion, from presence, not panic. This is what it means to carry divine alignment, to walk into the same day with a different spirit, to face the same challenge with a different name, to feel the wind, but not be moved by it, because you are not driven, you are commissioned. Let me give you one final symbol, the flame inside. There's a flame inside you now, not one that flickers with the wind, not one that depends on who approves or how you feel or what the outcome looks like. It's the flame of alignment, the one God lit the moment you stopped asking for the storm to change and started asking Him to change you. That flame is now your compass, your center, your quiet fire. It will speak to you in tension, guide you in silence, anchor you in every future moment where the world tries to pull you back into reaction. Return to it daily. Let it speak before your fear does. Let it lead before the world intrudes. This is how the aligned walk, with fire inside and stillness on the surface. So now, you walk forward, not as someone hoping, not as someone working on it, not as someone waiting for proof. You walk as someone who was forged in the very storm that once scared you. You walk as someone who knows, because they've embodied the truth. God doesn't change the storm first. He changes me. And now that He has, the storm has no power left. Let this be your seal. I walk as if it's done, because in spirit, it already is. The storm taught me who I'm not. Alignment revealed who I am. And now I walk in that knowing, every step, every word, every breath. You are no longer moved by drift, no longer driven by panic, no longer waiting to feel ready, because you're not reacting anymore. You are aligned, and that changes everything. You've always carried the code. Now you carry the fire. Walk forward. It's already done.